Hey, everybody. We're back again for another episode of Dirtbags and Pinstripes. And DJ, it's been a little bit, buddy. It's been since before the World Series. And so we have got a whole lot to talk about, not only the World Series, but a very, very, very busy free agent period and very interesting. But before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about this World Series. So Houston completed a completely dominating season. Definitely the best team in the AL. And the World Series was good, but it really turned out to be more domination from Houston. So DJ, game one, 6-5, went to the Phillies. Tell us a little bit about that game.
Yeah, so this game went into extra innings, David, and like you were saying, the Astros were definitely the heavy favorite in this. Phillies kind of came out of nowhere this year with an 87-75 record going into the playoffs. We're not expected to make it here. Had an awesome season. But man, JT Realmuto proved why he's the best catcher in the game this game, David, and just blew up the Astros in game one here. 3 ribbies from him, 2 hits, including the leadoff home run in the 10th inning that ended up being the winning home run there. So that was a great game. It was kind of fun, David. I had all my baseball players on my baseball team over for game one of the World Series. We came over and we ate some pizza, got to hang out, got to watch the game, played some wolf ball in the backyard. Just stuff you can't replace that kind of stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And those guys hung out, man. It was a 10-inning game, so we had a long night, but it was fun hanging out, man. And anytime you get to watch the World Series with a lot of people, that's always a bonus and a lot of fun. And Alec Baum with 2 ribbies himself that game, man. And the pitching didn't go very far. David, they just didn't last very long. Nola went 4 and a third, gave up 5 runs, 5 earned in that game. And you know to pitch that Astros lineup, I would not want to be the one having to do that. Verlander goes 5, and he also gives up 5 earned. So they both got pretty bombed in this game, David. It became a bullpen game, which a lot of these games ended up becoming. The Astros used 7 pitchers, and the Phillies used 6, and it just kind of seems like that's the game now, David. We've talked about this many times, but in the ALCS and the NLCS, it was the same way. And 13 pitchers used in game one of the World Series, David. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just the way it is, man. Analytics has changed the game. They know the spin rate. They know when you're wearing down. We talked about this off air. We were talking about a different pitcher, but they know how many times you can go through that lineup before they figure you out, and I think it makes the game fun. What do you think?
I do too. I like the back and forth of it all. I really do. And I've said this 100 times, but how you handle the bullpen determines whether or not you win big series like this, and it ended up being the case. And so, yeah, man, the Astros jumped up to a 5-0 lead in this. They were out ahead real quick in this game in the 3rd inning. You're like, oh, this game's over, and you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel the pressure of the Phillies just coming into the World Series, kind of front and center there in the first few innings, and then storming back, they came in the 4th inning with 3, and then the 5th they got another 2 to tie this thing, and it stayed that way all the way till the end, till JT had the big bomb in the extra innings there. Good old our boy David Robertson, who pitched
Yep.
for both of our teams recently. He
Oh yeah.
came in and closed the deal, man. One of the Phillies' 18 closers they've used in the postseason, and he got the save in this one. So, in front of 42,000 fans at Minute Maid Park, and 4.5 hour game. That's what it ended up being, David. So from the first pitch on, that was a long one and went well into the night. And unfortunately, like we were talking about before, David, and we talked more off of the air about this than we did on the air. I want you to kind of get into a little bit how baseball needs to change something about the start times of these games, because we were no joke. I had all my teenage baseball players here until 11:30, 12 o'clock my time, and then they got to go home, and that's just not ideal. Not that
Mm-hmm.
it was a terrible thing because everybody knew where they were and everything, but this is not ideal for any young kid, for your kids, for my
Nope.
sons.
It's
It's not
so
ideal
dumb,
at all.
DJ. And I realize, they're trying to placate the East Coast and the West Coast. But a 7 o'clock start time that still gets you out of work if you're on the West Coast. I don't understand it. I think they started these games after 8 o'clock. It's just no good, man. If you're really wanting to get these young fans, they've got to be able to watch these games. These games are long anyway, and I hate the way they're doing that. Hopefully, somewhere along the line they'll get that changed. I love when the playoffs, man, they got those games all backed up, or some of them starting at 2 o'clock. Then you got another one starting at 4 and on out through the day. I love that, man. That's what they need to shoot for. DJ, game 2, the Franimal. What an amazing pitcher. DJ, I've always been big on the quality starts. I can't remember what his streak is, but it's like years long. Seriously, his streak of quality starts. And he did it again. 5-2 Astros. He goes 6 1/3. Zach Wheeler goes 5 innings, gets tagged a little bit, and they right the ship. So tell us a little bit about this game.
Yeah, Altuve woke up a little bit in game 2, and that's what Houston needed offensively. 3 hits in this game. Had obviously been struggling really bad in the postseason. The regular season, he was Jose Altuve that we know. Just fell apart a little bit there in the postseason. The spark that they needed in this game, I believe he led the game off with a big hit right away, and this game was underway with huge momentum in the Astros' favor. Bregman with 2 ribbies as well in this game. Bregman also hit a bomb in the 5th inning in this game. Bregman, I'm telling you, man, he's one of the most underrated players in the game. This guy consistently, year after year, is just a dominant third baseman in the game. But yeah, man, you're making a good point on Framber for sure. And I really believe he was the key to this game. And he's just dominant. And you really saw some really bad swings in game 2 from the Phillies. You could tell that they were off. His pitches are nasty. They dive to the bottom. They're still swinging at the balls in the dirt. You're nasty. If a major league hitter is swinging at a ball that hits the dirt, David, you're nasty. So he did that on multiple occasions in this series. And the Astros only had to use 3 pitchers, which is crazy because this is not the case normally in playoff baseball where you can get away with using 3 pitchers, only 2 relievers. They much needed bullpen rest after a long game 1 from the Astros bullpen. The Phillies end up using 4 guys this game. Man, just a really good game this one as well. You kind of felt at this point here that the Phillies were in a little bit of a good spot, splitting in Houston, going back home to a ruckus crowd in Philadelphia, to say the least. But yeah, the Astros with 3 big runs right away in the 1st inning, get another 2 in the 5th inning, and Philadelphia really just could not put anything there. And let me tell you this, David, I kind of want to talk about him in this game, and it'll extend for the rest of the series. Nick Castellanos, man, he disappeared in the World Series. I know you saw this too. He had horrible at bats. He didn't look anywhere close, and I really think that hurt the Phillies. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, exactly. He was such a key part, throughout the year, and players, they're going to slump. I just hate that it was during this time, and the Astros got a pitching staff that'll make you slump. My team's the Yankees. They dealt with that with Judge, man. After such an awesome season, he was just completely irrelevant in the playoffs. But I totally agree, man. It really hurt him, throughout the series. So game 3, DJ, Phillies flip it back over 7-0. They get a big start from Ranger Suarez, who I guess is a little bit underrated, DJ. I remember looking at their depth chart, to start the season and being like, who is this guy? And, he kind of flashed on the scene at the end of last year, and you kind of wondered if it was for real. But sure enough, if you can quiet the Astros lineup for 5 shutout innings or whatever it is he pitched, must be a pretty good pitcher. So what did you think about that?
I'm telling you, man, we talked about him a little bit on the last podcast that we had, how he was a sneaky guy in this rotation. And, man, did he pitch well. You're so right about that. It was almost a shocker, to be honest with you, David, that he was out of the game after 5. I was kind of like, oh, no, you always are starting to feel it. He hasn't given up a run. He's struck out 4. He's only walked 1, 3 hits allowed to this club here that just dominates offensively. And you're turning it over to Connor Brogdon. Like, how much confidence do you have in Connor Brogdon when you take the ball out of a guy dominating 5 innings? That takes a lot of courage to do that, man. It really does. To go to Kyle Gibson, Nick Nelson, and Andrew Bellotti I mean,
Yeah.
these are not the front end guys that wrote their bullpen here that he ended up using to end this game. So a lot of courage he had to go to these guys. They never went to Suarez too long. He was consistently going 5-6 at the most. Sometimes even less. Sometimes you come out of the pen. So really good start by him for sure. McCullers, David. This is the game where McCullers got absolutely bombed for 7 runs,
Mhm.
7 earned, and I don't know if you saw the videos, David. Do you see anything about McCullers tipping pitches? Did you see that stuff? Did you look into that at all? You didn't
Mm-mm,
see
no.
that? Okay, so I saw some videos where McCullers was showing it's a little more separation in his windup that you could tell a curveball was coming. And then sometimes the mechanics of a pitcher are off a little bit, and you can tip your pitches as to whether it's off speed or fastball. And McCullers was doing that. And I believe if you saw Alec Baum go over to the dugout to talk to Bryce Harper before his at bat, Harper had hit a home run. Baum comes over and talks to Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper whispers something into his ear. Baum hits a homer. So I think he was telling him, hey, he's tipping his pitches here. Look for this and sit fastball. And sure enough, man, he got one running inside and turned on it and nailed that ball out of the ballpark. So McCullers was definitely messed up in this game. He was way off it. And McCullers is a great pitcher. Don't get me wrong here by
Yeah.
any means, the stretch of the imagination, but had a really rough night. And when you're having a rough night in Philadelphia, he was hearing it from the
Oh yeah.
crowd as well. So, man, this was something else, David. You all of a sudden have a shutout like this where the Phillies seem to just absolutely dominate this game. 2 in the first, 2 in the second. They get 3 in the fifth, hitting a lot of home runs, a lot of balls went out of the ballpark here. The Astros only managed 5 hits on the game, and just a lot of good stuff. Harper hits a bomb, Bomb hits a bomb. Brandon Marsh went deep, Kyle Schwarber went deep, Reese Hoskins went deep. So they were all teeing off of McCullers, man, and a lot of balls went out of the ballpark. What a crowd to watch too, man. Philadelphia, they've got a great crowd. They're really hard on the opponents. They can be hard on their own players as well. They're notorious for throwing batteries at JD Drew when he refused to sign with the Phillies when he was drafted by them. So definitely a different fan base here, and what a game for the Phillies here. 45,000 in Philadelphia show up for the game, standing room only crowd. What an awesome game that was as well, and big win for the Phillies, man. They go up 2-1 in this series, but David, unfortunately, that was their last one of the season. Just when you think that they were gonna kind of keep going there.
Yeah. So the Astros slammed the door on that. You look at the series and 2-1, you think, oh man, maybe the Phillies are going to do something here. They've been hot. Rod Thompson's pulling all the right strings, and along comes Christian Javier and his band of bullpen guys. A no hitter in the World Series, DJ. How wild is that? 5-0 Houston. I watched most of this game. It was the quietest, smoothest. I don't know how fast the game was, the game time was, but it just seemed like it just buzzed by because literally the Phillies could do nothing. Jeremy Pena had a couple hits. Looks like Alex Bregman, a couple RBIs, but just a clean, quick game. So, what did you think about Game 4?
Blew my mind, man. Obviously we've never seen a no hitter in the World Series. And I was looking forward to kind of talking to you about this too. This is a game where Castellanos looked really, really, really bad. 3 strikeouts, 3 at bats. He wasn't even close. Bryce Harper actually looked really bad in this game too. Did draw 1 walk. So they did have 3 walks that kept it from being a perfect game. But man, here's the thing, David. They were baffled all night long. Kyle Schwarber did not look good either at the plate. Um, so Javier dominates this game, man. He was completely on. 97 pitches after 6 innings. You're obviously not finishing that. So there's no, you're not going 3 more innings at 97 pitches. I totally understand why the plug was pulled here. But David, um, we've heard of, the World Series, the famous Yankee throwing the perfect game in the World Series. And obviously that's a perfect game, but I kind of want your opinion on this a little bit. Would you, if it wasn't a perfect game, let's just say he was a no hitter and he walked 1 guy. So you think it's harder to go a no-hitter with one guy or harder to go a no-hitter with four guys like the Astros did? And which one do you think is more cool?
I definitely think it's harder to go with one guy because you're wearing down. Those relievers come in there, they're emptying the tank. As a starter, you get later in the game, you get tired. They've seen all your pitches. They you've got a pattern, that you may set. So definitely harder, just to go with a single guy for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do totally agree with you. Like you said, it's a lot easier for a guy to come in and go 1, 2, 3 as a reliever than it is for a guy to go nine. So I could not agree with you more there. Bregman once again had 2 RBI in this game. David and Jordan Alvarez kind of woke up a little bit. He was struggling a little bit here too at the beginning of this series, and obviously towards the end there started picking it up. But Kyle Tucker, man, one of the best young studs in the game, had a hit and a walk as well in this game. No home runs in this one. Just a lot of solid contact, driving in runs for the Astros. A big fifth inning put it away with 5 runs in the fifth inning for the Astros. That was all the scoring that happened, all the scoring that the Astros obviously needed. And we've seen something we never seen in our lives, man. A no hitter in the World Series. Very cool. It was something that I think in the eighth inning, I was kind of feeling that these guys are done. You could just tell.
Yeah.
Kyle Schwarber after the game kind of said something kind of cool. He said, whatever. It doesn't feel any better getting no hit than it does to lose and you lost, 3-2, or you got 10 hits and you still lost. Nothing feels good about it, losing, period. So you just turn the page and move on. That's kind of what he said. It's kind of a nice thing to say, but it never really happened. He's moving forward at all. So
Yeah. So game 5, 3-2 Astros. Justin Verlander started looking a little more like himself, although it was a little shaky. He had 4 walks. And DJ, I think we saw the birth of a superstar. Jeremy Pena hit his 4th home run of the series. 3 for 4, 2 RBIs. Kyle Schwarber hit a home run, his 5th of the postseason. So talk a little bit about Game 5.
yeah, man, that you're so right about that. Jeremy Pena, this is where he starts taking over, man. What a season by him. It's a shame that he didn't get the full swap there. He'd have had a shot at Rookie of the Year, no doubt. This guy, man, he's winning NLCS. I'm sorry, the ALCS MVP, World Series MVP. He's got a Gold Glove. This guy just came in out of nowhere and replaced Carlos Correa, man. And
Yeah.
and the Astros don't win this series, and they don't even maybe get there without this guy this year. The way he played, he was that dominant, David, offensively, and huge game here for him. No doubt, you couldn't have said any better. Altuve was on fire in this game as well. So Altuve coming around. Jordan goes 0 for 4, man, and people are starting to worry about him a little bit, but obviously that he comes up big at the end here. But yeah, man. So just a crazy, crazy game here for sure for Jeremy Pena off of Syndergaard in the 4th inning to go deep like that. He's a superstar, David, for sure. And I think, we've talked a lot in the offseason here about all these shortstops that are going to be free agents, and there's still some of them to sign. Man, the Astros got a good one here, and they got him on a cheap right now. So one day he's going to get a lot of money, and it's going to take a whole lot for Houston to keep him, man. But yeah, Kyle Schwarber with the big bomb in this game. He had a really good series. Unfortunately, I was rooting for the Phillies in this series because of Schwarber, and what an awesome series he had, no doubt. Great showing on top of an awesome season in general for him, where he was second, I believe, in the whole entire league in home runs to only Aaron Judge, who just destroyed him as far as number of home runs. But yeah, man, Verlander did pitch well. It was himself, and then 4 other guys come in. Presley closed the door, and Ryan Presley, David, talk about him for a second. That guy, man, lights out at the end of almost every one of these games. Ryan Presley's there shutting the door for the Astros.
Yeah, again, a guy who kind of under the radar a little bit. I mean, you knew Presley was a good pitcher, but when you think World Series closer, let's just be honest, you don't think Ryan Presley. And man, Houston has done an awesome job of developing talent, and putting them in spots to succeed. Their bullpen was lights out this entire series. I mean, really, it's amazing what Houston's done. I think they've been to, is it 4 straight ALCSs, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So just a dominant run by Houston. Amazing how they've been able to, like you talked about, replace guys like Correa and just keep winning. So game 6, they got the Franimal again. A different, not the Franimal. That's the dude that played for the Cubs. Franmil. I'm sorry. You got Framber again. 6 innings, 2 hits. Again, this game, was fairly close, but it just didn't feel competitive, to be honest with you. Framber and his and the bullpen again just lights out. So talk about game 6.
Yeah, man, Zach Wheeler. This is gonna be the one I texted you, right? When Rob Thompson went out there to get Zach Wheeler, and I said that's a terrible idea. What is he doing? This is not good. Wheeler was dominant in this game, David. They had just taken the lead 1-0, and he had given up a hit, or I believe 2, and maybe there was 1 out. I can't remember the exact situation of when he came out and got him. But man, Zach Wheeler deserved to keep the ball in that spot, and at the end of the game, he was not happy about it. And this is the problem, Dave. This is what makes all this so tricky is you've got that guy, and he still didn't give up a run. I know he had a situation where he was getting himself in a little bit of trouble there, but I just didn't see it. The way Wheeler had them off balance all night long, I was just hoping that he would stick with him a little bit longer and try to see what he could get out of him. And then, if he gives up a run or 2 here, then you take him out. But man, you're in the 6th inning and he's going, and he was pitching really well. So what were your thoughts on that? Because I was curious to hear your thoughts on the quick hook on Wheeler in game 6 there.
Well, as a pitcher, I would have hated it.
Yeah.
As a manager, man, Alvarado has been so good. And, I think he came in as a left-on-left situation, throwing 100 miles an hour. And, you felt good about it. But, like, the wheels just fell off. I mean, it looked like a bad decision in the end. But, I mean, to be honest, I kind of understood it. You're bringing him in fresh. It must have felt like Wheeler was kind of running out of gas, even though he was dominating at that point. So as a pitcher, I hate it. As a manager, I understand, I guess, why you would do that.
Yeah, I mean, I do get it. I just didn't have that feeling. My gut was saying that was a really bad move, and Alvarado came in and got just shelled, which he was so good all year long too. And that just goes to show you how hard this game is, man. You could have dominant stuff all year long, and you get in the World Series and get bombed like that, and then you look like the GOAT after such a great season. But yeah, Framber, man, unbelievable, 9 Ks and 5, like you're talking about, man, just unreal stuff he had. And then Presley, of course, closes it out at the end there. What a dominant pitcher he was all season long. And man, there's some guys in this bullpen, David, for Houston that didn't get used that were top guys for other teams. Man, this bullpen, this pitching staff is so deep and so good. The Astros were just way too much with that pitching, David, and that offense that they had to go with it. When me and you did the previous shows before the season started, we were talking really high on the Astros.
Yeah.
None of us really went with them to go all the way this year or anything like that, but we knew that they were a force to be reckoned with. And your boy Dusty, David, your boy Dusty,
Hall of Famer, DJ. He's a Hall of Famer. That's it.
I don't know if you can argue that anymore, unfortunately,
No,
man.
You can't do it.
So here's the thing with Dusty, though. I wanted to ask you about this too. So when you talk about a guy like Dusty Baker and what he just did, obviously as a manager, solidifies his Hall of Fame career. Do you take into account the player, manager? Like when these guys play the game, he wasn't a player that just based off of his playing stats would make the Hall, but off of his managerial stats he does. So, how do you look at it when somebody does both like he did? Let's say he's just really great at both, not like over the top good at one or the other. Does that factor into making Hall of Fame credentials better for a guy like that? What do you think on that? That's a tough one.
It doesn't hurt, right? I mean, I guess I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I guess Dusty has been present for a bunch of big moments in history. Were you aware of that? Like,
Yes.
and so I'm not, to be honest with you. So I just heard a little blip on it walking by the TV one day. So to answer your question, I thought Dusty was a Hall of Famer before this. Just to be honest with you, he's been a successful manager for so long. Has he been to 4 World Series now? Is that right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you've been to 4 World Series, I mean, you've been a pretty good manager. So I guess to answer your question, I'm going to say it doesn't hurt, but you got to be great at one or the other. You know what I mean? But
So like Don Mattingly, for instance, he's like, I mean, he just won Manager of the Year a couple years ago. Great hitting, great baseball career. You know, Manager of the Year type guy. He does both. Those are things you factor in to the Hall of Fame because of his coaching, you know, stuff like that. I don't know.
he's not been great enough at either. We're going to talk about Don Mattingly here in a minute anyway, but
Yep.
I see what you're saying though. I see what you're saying. I mean, he's a good manager. But he's just not been able to get over the hump. So I don't know. That's an interesting question. I could be probably convinced either way, but you got to be great at one or the other. That's just where I'll leave it.
That does make sense. I get that too, but I think it does become consideration on a borderline guy on one or the other. Like, okay, what did he do as a player? And you know, if he was pretty good as a player and an awesome coach that was over the top Hall of Fame, then I think you use that as more leverage to get him in. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I agree. It's definitely can't hurt you as far as that because it's a baseball Hall of Fame and it's not just player, it's you know coaches and all that too. So if you do both, you're definitely unique, for sure in that kind of sense. So yeah, man, what an awesome series. The the Astros are not going away, and neither are the Phillies. So they're going to be heavy favorites in both the NL and the AL next year as well. So what a great series! Always a lot of fun to watch that. My favorite time of year, no doubt, to watch and see. And the Astros got this one for sure for the 22-22 season there, and definitely champions of the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, David, and moving right along into what you just talked about here, segueing into what happened here in the Hall of Fame this week. We had a different committee let some guys in a couple weeks here, David. We'll do our annual Hall of Fame show. And we had a unique ballot this year with 8 guys on it who, man, what a ballot this was. And off the top of my head, if I miss someone, let me know. But I'm going to go with there was Albert Bell, Fred McGriff, Don Mattingly, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Kurt Schilling, Dale Murphy. They were all on this ballot here. And a lot of guys that were former players. I believe some former managers, like some executives were on this. It was a unique ballot. A lot of former Cubs, actually. It was kind of cool to see that. But they have 16 guys on the panel. You had to get 12 out of 16 votes to get in. And man, David, to be honest with you, 100%, I really thought that they were going to do more than one. What were your thoughts before?
DJ, come on. I would love to be in the room when this is going on. There was like 5 Hall of Famers easy in that list, and they come away with one. And the second most vote getter is Don Mattingly. Now listen, there's no bigger Don Mattingly fan than this guy. No way. No way. Kurt Schilling should be in there. Barry Bonds should be in there. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Dale Murphy should be in there.
Albert Bell?
No.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jay.
Yes.
No.
100% yes.
You and your 10-year whatever.
10-year
if that's the case, so let me ask you this. Giancarlo Stanton quits today. Is he in the Hall of Fame?
Whew.
His numbers are
I gotta
just
look
as
at
good.
the stats.
They're just as good. I already looked them up. They're just as good. That's what I'm saying. I love Albert Bell, whatever. Actually, I hate Albert Bell, but
I do too.
he was a great player for a few years in the middle. You can't argue that. But again, this goes back to, it's a career. It should be based on your career. He had probably 7 or 8 really good seasons, and then he had 3 or 4 meh seasons where he was tailing off and on his way out. And I realized, I think he had a degenerative hip, not his fault, or something like that. He had some sort of degenerative condition that kept him out of. But like I said, ask yourself this question: is Giancarlo Stanton a Hall of Famer? Because if you compare their stats, Giancarlo Stanton's got more WAR than Albert Bell does. They're at the same point in their career. The obvious answer to that to me is no. Giancarlo Stanton is not a Hall of Famer. You couldn't put Albert Bell in. And if you're putting Albert Bell in before you're putting Barry Bonds in, come on, man. Whatever. Roger Clemens, all these guys, and Don Mattingly is this. Explain that one to me, DJ. How does Don Mattingly out of that list end up the second vote getter?
That shocked me. That 100% shocked me that Mattingly was second on this list. And these guys also took into effect Schilling's off the field issues 100%, because if you look at those numbers, you're an idiot if you don't think he's a Hall of Famer. And I'm just going to say that right away.
I totally agree, man. I'm so sick of that. You know what I mean? It's like,
yep.
It would be different if he committed a crime or whatever. Okay, I can follow you there, but the guy that has some political views, that's ridiculous. He as bad as I hate it, the bloody sock, all that in addition to what a great career he had is enough to put him over in and of itself. You can't tell the story of the 2000s in baseball without Curt Schilling being in it. So it's crazy to me. I'll stand by my text that I sent you from my Twitter post that I saw. I can't take the Hall of Fame seriously right now. I can't do it until the top tier players get in. I'm honestly a little bit disinterested with it, to be honest with you, but I'm super glad Fred McGriff got in. Long overdue. It's a perfect example of a guy that should have been in years ago. This shouldn't even been close.
So, David, I want to talk about McGriff here for a second, because this is really awesome. And me and you have talked forever about how dumb it is that he only got 40% for the 10 years he was on the ballot. And then these guys put him in unanimously, 16 out of 16. He got 100% of the vote, and rightfully so, man. This is absolutely ridiculous. Think about this too, David. Think about the 1994 season that was robbed from Fred McGriff, taken away completely, 93, 94, with the strike.
Mm-hmm.
And the numbers that he would have easily hit 500 had you not taken that away. And I know you kind of have to factor that in, because that's out of his control. That was a strike that took away a lot of games from these players, and he will easily get his seventh. And that's the thing I couldn't understand either is, because he couldn't hit 7 home runs, that you keep a guy like him out. His numbers are off the charts. He's always been an absolute stud wherever he's gone. And I was looking through his career, David, and it's a shame too, man. The dominant Blue Jays teams in 92, 93 that went back to back, he just missed those teams, man. He just missed being a part of those teams.
Yeah.
After leaving Toronto in 90 there, after the 1990 season, when he had 35 bombs and 88 ribbies, they got rid of him to the San Diego Padres, where he went on to have awesome years for those 2 seasons he was there as well. And then he missed out on those teams, man. Think about if they had Fred McGriff on those teams as well. I know John Olerud was no joke for the Blue Jays there, but man, he missed out on that. And then he finally got his chance in 95 with the Braves, and he won the World Series with that team. But man, this guy consistently, the crime dog, he batted 284. That's a great batting average, man.
Mm-hmm.
377 on base. He had 1,550 ribbies. This guy is no joke. I don't understand it. I've never understood why he didn't get the love that he didn't get. It'll be
all around nice guy too.
Yeah.
Let's throw that out there. Like, just a gentleman, man. I mean, and maybe that not that being a gentleman hurt his case, but just maybe being a quiet, unassuming. You never heard anything about Fred McGriff at all those years. He was just a model of consistency.
He really was, man. And in the 2002 season with the Cubs, right before the Cubs almost made the World Series there in 2003, he was a big part of that 2002 team with 30 bombs, 103 ribbies as a 38-year-old man. He was so good for the Cubs, man. I really wanted them to bring him back in 2003, and we went, remember Hee-Sop Choi was our first baseman of the future, and they didn't have any more room for Fred McGriff. Which is crazy to think now when you look back on it. Eric Karros was also first baseman for us. So it was out the door for McGriff after the 2002 season. But then he went on to play with the Dodgers in 3 and Tampa Bay to end his career in 4. It'll be interesting to see what hat he wears in the Hall of Fame, Dave. This is kind of another question I want to ask you. So when you look at his numbers, his best numbers are with Atlanta. Okay, there's kind of no disputing that. Won the ring with Atlanta as well. So I think that's kind of the obvious choice. But he was also with the Blue Jays in Tampa for the exact same amount of years, all 3 of them at 5 years. So when you got a guy like this, it's going to be interesting to see what he picks. I think the Braves. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the Braves, and the World Series kind of pushes it over. I mean, he had the better numbers there too, but maybe he's one of those guys that doesn't wear a cap. I think that's become a thing. I didn't realize he was with the Rays for 5 years. That slipped by me somehow, but yeah, I think he should be a Brave.
So, kind of closing out this talk here a little bit. So, David, seeing what happened to Bonds and Clemens on this ballot as well, do you think it kind of rubbed in the dirt that there's absolutely no shot for these guys, or do you think at some point it'll
sure
come
looks
back?
that way? Yeah,
Yeah.
it sure looks that way. It's just sad. It's just sad because we know now that for sure there's steroid users in the Hall of Fame, so we can't use that as an argument anymore. I just, like I told you, I just can't get over it. I'll never be able to get past that. You can't put on the plaque that they were steroid users or whatever, but they need to be in the Hall of Fame.
Speaking of Hall of Fame and cheaters, one that just passed away is Gaylord Perry, and I say that with all due respect because it is very sad that he passed away. But there's no joke and there's no like dispute that Gaylord Perry cheated so bad when he was on the mound with the spitball. And somehow that's okay. Because that's performance enhancing. It is. It's not injecting yourself with something, but you're putting a ton of spit to make that ball move like it shouldn't move. It's illegal to do that. So it's performance enhancing. And he got this guy's in the Hall of Fame without dispute. So hypocrisy, like we talk about with the Hall of Fame to a great extent, I agree with. When you have cheaters in other ways that do enhance their performance, like this does for sure. And it's kind of brushed under and not even looked at in the same class as the other guys who took steroids. But nonetheless, David, Gaylord Perry with an awesome career, 314 wins, a 90 WAR, 3.11 ERA. And what blows my mind about this too is we're seeing some of the older pitchers in our game right now signing longer contracts going into their earlier 40s to where they're going to be our age and still pitching, David. And so he went to 44. Man,
and was fairly effective. His last year, I mean, 4.14 ERA. I mean, he wasn't terrible.
He was not. And so what are your thoughts, first of all, on all the spitballs that he threw in there and the career of Gaylord Perry?
Yeah, I mean, 314 wins, 3,500 strikeouts. Definitely should have been in the Hall of Fame, but definitely was a cheater. And I feel the same way. I feel the same way about him as I do the steroid guys. Call it what it is. And, he's got the stats to be in there, so put him in there.
Listen to this, David. Some of the stats when I'm walking through his career here, man, and getting an in-depth look at it a little bit this week as he had passed away. 325 innings pitched twice. 325 innings in the 1969-1970 season.
Well, I guess when you throw in the high 70s, you can do that, right? I mean, Have you watched some of those games where it just looks like that ball's just looping in there? It definitely looks like your grandpa's out there on the mound pitching there towards the end of his career, but he was making it work. I mean, I love guys that can pitch. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that are real true pitchers. I mean, let's be honest, it's a lot easier to be a great pitcher when you're, Justin Verlander and can throw in the upper 90s. But when you win 314 games, which I'm sure there was a time when Gaylord Perry threw hard, don't get me wrong, but he was wily. Let's put it that way.
Yes, he was. He was throwing a spitball for a reason because the arm wasn't cranking 99 like it should have. So
right.
And David, when he threw 325 and 328 to lead the league, those weren't even the highest numbers of his career. He had 342 in 1972 and 344 in 1973 for innings pitched. That blows my mind. I can't even fathom that amount of. The only guy that I really can think of that would come close to that in our era is Nolan Ryan, as far as
DJ,
just mowing him down that long.
303 career complete games. 303. That's insane.
That's got oh man, that's gotta be up there for the all-time lead for sure. In that category. That is unbelievable how many complete games he's got in his career, man. What a character, what a great career. He played for 8 different teams in his career. And it's almost hard to believe that in a day and age where there wasn't free agency, like there is prevalent today. It's very hard to have guys sticking around for very long. But man, when you're playing for 8 different teams back in the day, when your career ends in 1983 and you begin in 1962, you've gotten around, man. He's seen a lot of things. He's done a lot of things. What an outstanding career he had. Won a Cy Young Award, was runner up one year as well in the Cy Young category. Actually won 2 Cy Young Awards. So yeah, man, what an awesome career. Rest in peace to the great Gaylord Perry. Yet another Hall of Famer that's passed away in the last few years. Very sad
Yeah.
to see that indeed.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
David, let's
DJ,
get into this part of the show here, man. Want to go over the moves that have made. We'll run through these as quick as we can here. We're going to talk about some stuff that's happened. Been a very busy off season. We got a lot to get to tonight. This has been a while. So first one I want to start with is a trio of relievers, David. So I wanted your thoughts on this. Edwin Diaz re-signs with the Mets. He gets $102 million for 5 years, becoming the richest contract for a reliever in Major League Baseball history. Good contract, bad contract for a closer. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna say good contract. He was super dominant. On top of that, he's a fun figure, loved by Mets fans. So I'm gonna say that was a good signing. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, he was absolutely nasty. And it was real fun to watch his brother pitch for the Reds this year, too, under the radar. That guy ended up being their closer towards the end of the season as well for the Reds. So those Diaz boys are nasty, man. And they both got some electric stuff there. And so I don't really understand, the market for a closer going over 100 million kind of blows my mind. I'm not sure if I spend my money that way. Edwin Diaz, I gotta admit, you were telling me a few years back when Edwin was struggling, I was ready to throw him out of the league basically, and you were like, "You're crazy. This guy's a stud," and he dominated this year. So there's no doubt if you're gonna sign a guy like that based off what he did this year, that's for sure the thing. But then you got a guy like Robert Suarez who signs with the Padres, re-ups with them. David, he gets a deal for 5 years, 46 million. He's not even a closer.
This is
So
where
these
you
relievers,
knew.
what's going on, David?
This is where you knew that this was going to be a crazy offseason. That is actually exactly where I thought, man, this is going to be expensive. So Suarez was awesome last year. 2.27 ERA. If I'm not mistaken, DJ, didn't he come from Korea?
Yes.
Or something like that. And so obviously the Padres knew something that nobody else did, 61 strikeouts in 47 innings, but I still think that's a weird signing on 1 year worth of track record. But this is when I knew that it was going to be crazy off season, and we've seen it. It just, a lot of these contracts just feel way out of bounds. But we'll see. But I mean, Suarez had an awesome season last year, 5-1, 227. So again, maybe they know something we don't.
So here's my thought before we get to the next one here is do you think that other teams were looking at what the Astros did in the World Series with all that relief pitching that they had that was so dominant, and they thought to themselves, we better lock up a bullpen? Because let's be honest, really, to be honest with you, if you don't have a good bullpen, you really have no shot with the starters going 5-6 innings now.
Yeah.
So do you think that factored in?
Absolutely. Everybody's shooting for the super bullpen. We've seen the Red Sox, they're trying to completely retool. I know you probably talk about that later, but the Yankees have signed a couple relievers. the Padres as well. They've signed a couple since. So everybody's trying to retool the bullpen, and that's the new thing, man. I mean, that's just where we are, and I do think it makes the game fun and more competitive.
So the last of the trio, Rafael Montero, re-ups with the Astros, gets a 3-year, $34.5 million deal.
Yeah.
And David, he didn't really pitch too much in the World Series, to be honest with you. I mean, he wasn't really out there a ton, and so they locked him up. He was nasty, no doubt. Watched throughout the playoffs. Um, so it's a really great
That
time to
one,
be a reliever early on in the free agency here. And the Astros, I thought, to be honest with you, I really thought they were going to let him walk with the depth they had.
yeah.
But they ended up giving him 11 million, 12 million per year. So what do you
That
think
one
of
is a
that?
little bit spooky to me because Montero has been bad as much as he's been good. So
Yeah.
7.27 ERA and 6.39 in 2021, 4.08 in 2020, 5.52 in 2017, 8.05 in 2016. And
Woo.
ERA's above 4 in 2014 and 15. So Montero's only really been good a couple years, which obviously last year was one of them. So that one's a little bit spooky to me, but
Ooh.
it's hard not to trust the Astros, man.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of track record, so I can't fight them on it. But that one scares me a little bit.
Oh man, I didn't know it was that bad going back that far. So yikes. We'll see how that one works out. So the Angels signed Tyler Anderson. So I wanted your thoughts on this. What a great year for the Dodgers last year. Tyler Anderson was nasty. About as good as they got in their rotation for a while there when the Dodgers were battling a lot of injuries with Bueller and Kershaw. And Gonsolin actually got hurt too. And Tyler Anderson stood tall in that rotation with Julio Urias. And those two carried the Dodgers through a long stretch of consistent pitching. And 33-year-old Anderson gets a big contract from the Angels to
You know,
pitch in this offense. What do you think?
I think this might be a bargain, DJ. He got the
Really?
same money Jose Quintana got, and
Wow.
Tyler
Good point.
Anderson definitely, last year was the better pitcher for sure. Now I know his track record is short, but I actually like that signing for the Angels. I think he may have took a little bit of a discount, to be honest with you. I mean, I may be wrong on that, but I think 13 million in today's world doesn't really buy you anything. So I think that's a good signing. What do you think?
Yeah, Tyler Anderson was good, and I was wondering what the Dodgers were going to do with him. But with Dustin May coming back, probably full in the rotation here, there just wasn't really enough room. I guess they were thinking that they were going to go in a different direction from him. They got a couple prospects that came up and pitched last season, got a couple starts that they're kind of going off of as well. That one of them will fill a spot as well. We do know Bueller is out for the entire season, and they did re-sign Kershaw. So yeah, man, I think it was time for him to go for sure. And the Angels need pitching, as we obviously know that they need a lot of it. And so it was a good shot for them to take here. And hopefully the Angels just keep trying to put this together with all that offense they got to try to get into the playoffs, which I think it'd be good for baseball if the Angels are in the playoffs. So David, the Yankees re-signed Anthony Rizzo to a 2-year, $40 million deal. I want your thoughts on this. What were your overall thoughts on that contract?
Had to be done. Look out for Anthony Rizzo this year. The shift had really hurt him and taken hits away. It would not surprise me at all, and you're going to think I'm crazy, if Anthony Rizzo isn't in the MVP conversation next year, because I think his batting average is going to shoot up. The short porch, I can see 30 homers being on the table again this year. So I love this move by the Yankees. This had to happen.
Breaks my heart to see him keep signing with the Yankees. I was hoping he'd come back for the Cubs, but not going to happen. They also have a 3rd-year option on him in 2025 with a $6 million buyout. So he could end up being there for 3 years as well with the team option in 2025. So we'll see if he's there for 2 or 3 years, but they've got that 3rd-year option on Rizzo. And like you were saying, man, in the playoffs especially, Rizzo was one of the only guys that showed up at times. So, man, he's a gamer. He's a great player. He's a very good friend of Aaron Judge. So that kind of factored in a little bit as well, too. I think Judge re-signing as well. So, David, the Blue Jays Now, this is one that me and you have already talked about a little bit. They trade Teoscar Hernandez to the Mariners for Eric Swanson, who will end up being a relief pitcher in the bullpen for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays also received minor leaguer Adam Mako in the deal.
I
What
don't get
happened
it.
there?
I don't get it. Eric Swanson, I'm actually really familiar with him. He came up through the Yankee system. He's kind of a breakout reliever. They're saying again the Blue Jays were wanting a super pin. I have no idea why you would trade Teoscar Hernandez. I don't get it. Great move by the Mariners. DJ, I mean, was he blocking somebody? Like, what was the thinking on trading this guy?
So that's a good point there. And I did look at the Fangraphs current roster for the Blue Jays. And what they've got right now is they got Springer in center, which is the obvious one. They've got, they got Luis Gurriel Jr. Playing left. They've got Whit Merrifield playing right. And they got Danny Jansen DHing. So if you're moving him out so you can have Danny Jansen in the lineup, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They got a couple guys on the bench, and Kevin Biggio, Santiago Espanol as well. But David, looking at their depth chart, he wasn't blocking anybody as far as the offense goes. What an outstanding career he's had. The last few seasons for him have been unbelievable. And when this trade was made, I was looking at Seattle wondering, what are they doing as well with all the depth that they have in the outfield? You would have thought that Seattle, the last thing that they would have needed was more outfield help, but they ended up making a whole lot more moves after this one was made that made more sense as to where they were kind of mixing and matching pieces here and throwing guys around. But Teoscar Hernandez slides in the 5-hole for the Mariners team in right field for them guys. And I think it was a great move for the Mariners, and I'm scratching my head big time on the Blue Jays. I don't really understand it at all, David.
No, I don't either. And yeah, the Mariners are going for it, man. Which I think is cool. Yeah, I have no idea what the Blue Jays are doing.
So the Twins trade Gio Urshela to the Angels, David. What's Urshela's role going to be with the Angels with Anthony Rendon at third base?
I saw he's going to be the starting shortstop. This is a very Angels move.
Really?
Yeah, this is one of those moves where you're just like, dude.
Gio Urshela?
Yeah, he played shortstop for the Yankees that whole last year that he was there.
Really?
He's capable, but he's not your starter. He's not a starting shortstop. So that's what I heard. They were going to play him at shortstop. I think it's nuts, but that's what they say.
Kind of caught me off guard there. You're right. Just to be a starting shortstop. That's wow, man. I did not I was gonna add, I was thinking, Rendon's obviously been battling a lot of injuries, so maybe you DH him and keep him off the field. That was my thought process on the whole thing. You keep him at third. But wow, that's an interesting dynamic there. Enough to sit and look at the Angels a little bit more in depth here with the addition of Anderson and Urshela now, knowing that he's going to play a little shortstop, see what direction they're going to go there. But yeah, that's crazy, man. And speaking of the Angels, they strike again, David. And I love this move. They get Mike Trout's twin. They look exactly like, if you've ever seen Hunter Renfroe and Mike Trout next to each other profile shot, they look just like each other. It's hilarious.
I know that.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, check it out. And so now they'll be next to each other in the outfield, center and right field as the Brewers trade Hunter Renfroe to the Angels for Jason Junk and Elvis Peguero here. Two prospects go back to the Brewers. I love it. I'm a big Hunter Renfroe guy as far as production. Not a very good hitter, obviously, but will definitely bring some pop to the lineup there. Probably I would put him in the 6-hole, 7-hole, something like that. His 5th team in 5 seasons, so he's not sticking, David. He keeps getting thrown around here. So the Angels make yet another move, David. So they're trying here. They're trying.
Yeah, I mean, nice upgrade on the cheap. Both of those prospects came from the Yankees. I can't remember who they traded who they got in that deal, but anyway, low-level prospects. That was a good trade for them.
The Astros signed Jose Abreu, David. Do they get better with Jose Abreu?
Oh, absolutely. Gurriel
scary
struggled last year, and so yeah, this was a huge upgrade. And 3 years is a long time, though. I mean, Abreu has gotten gotten older, so they kind of stuck their neck out there. But man, just a great professional hitter. So yes, I do. I think the Astros got better.
MVP 2 years ago. Not very far removed from that, and the White Sox got a lot worse. So I like this signing a lot from that perspective as well. They took another shot, lost one of their best players for sure, and man, the Astros just keep getting better, and that's scary to think with that offense. That their
Yeah.
offense is now way better with the signing of Jose Abreu. Man, the Rays get Zach Eflin. Help me understand what the Rays are doing, David. I have no clue.
I have no clue. Somehow this will turn out great, but I don't get this one at all. I'm not a Zach Eflin fan, but somehow this will work out for the Rays. It's voodoo. They have some sort of magic over there. But 4.04 ERA last year. I don't know how much money did they give him.
They gave him 3 years, 40 million.
This is why I think Tyler Anderson was a steal.
Yeah.
Same money.
Yep.
And
Good
he won
point.
15 games last year.
Shane McClanahan, Tyler Glasnow, Drew Rasmussen, and Jeffrey Springs in the rotation now with Zach Eflin. David, I'm going to say this right now. If there's a scenario where the Cubs could trade their entire team for Tyler Glasnow, I'd probably do it. That kid
What?
is an absolute stud. I want him on the Cubs very badly. I think he's going to win a Cy Young in the next few years for sure. I think he's that good.
Wasn't there a trade rumor between the Rays and the Cubs last year where that was a thing?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a rumor for sure, but it never even came close to fruition. I think we had checked in on him when he was hurt, but it never came to any fruition. So the Cubs have had him on our radar for a long time. I'm a big fan. He's had his Tommy John. He's got that behind him. So I really believe that though, and I don't think it's obviously going to be the Cubs uniform, but I think Tyler Glasnow is going to get a Cy Young award here really soon in the next few years for sure. So here's a Red Sox move for you. Chris Martin gets 2 years, 17 and a half million. Martin will be 37 years old next year. What was this signing, man? I didn't even understand this.
I have no idea. Obviously, the Red Sox are trying to retool their bullpen. They signed Joely Rodriguez as well, and then today Kenley Jansen, which I understand that one a little bit more. But this is weird. How are you ever going to get to your bullpen when you have no starters?
Yeah.
The Red Sox are so strange to me. And of course, I hate the Red Sox, and so I'm loving it. But I literally, if I was a Red Sox fan, I would be irate right now because nothing that they do to me makes any sense. So I don't understand this one. Chris Martin's a good pitcher, but like you said, 37 years old. I don't know about that.
The Brewers trade Colt Wong to the Mariners for Jesse Winker and Abraham Toro. So another outfielder gets moved out of Seattle there. So making room for Teoscar to come in there. Who got the better end of this trade, David?
I love this trade for both teams. I think this is one of those trades where both teams win. The Colton Wong is exactly what Seattle needed. They needed a second baseman and they needed a left-handed hitter. He's both. And Winker could easily have a bounce back season. And Toro's not a bad player himself. So I think both teams did well.
Great trade, man. I really agree. And Seattle's shaking it up a little bit. I like the moves that they've made so far. We'll see how it all pans out, obviously, but they had to shake it up a little bit because it didn't work last year. So bringing in Wong, man, like you said, that's exactly what they needed. Wong won the Gold Glove last year as well, so he's nasty defensively. So good baseball trade right there. I think that was a good one where guys got two really good players on each side of that trade. Jacob deGrom to the Rangers. Did you see this one coming?
So yes, I did. You know, initially, a buddy, Matt Kearns, texted me and said, "Man, I can't believe this contract." And initially, I thought, "Man, that actually kind of seems like a bargain to me." But what I didn't realize, or what I hadn't thought about, is number one, how old deGrom is.
Yeah.
And then the second thing you don't realize is he hasn't pitched much in the last 2 years, like not even a half season worth. So, man, this is risky. This is a risky move. And after really getting to think about it, I'm not so sure that this was smart. What do you think?
The Rangers are no closer to the World Series title by signing Jacob deGrom, and that doesn't really sound very brilliant. But David, they went offense last year and got John Gray, which John Gray is a decent pitcher, and now they went pitching here and got Jacob DeGrom. They've got superstar power, there's no doubt. I would say Seager and DeGrom are definitely superstars, but they're not any closer to. They're just not. They're not there yet. They're not. And I don't know if this makes you. I mean, it makes you better. There's no doubt about it. I'm not an idiot here, but it doesn't make them a playoff team, and that's a problem. So, what are you going to do to add to this now, to make yourself move forward, and become better? And it's an interesting situation and spot to be in, for sure, man. Because this team was terrible last year, and Jacob DeGrom, like you said, is not going to make a huge difference in making them anywhere closer to a playoff spot. So unless they're adding a whole lot more guys this offseason, they're going to rev this thing up even more. A team that's spending like no other is not going to make the playoffs next year. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. And they have signed a couple, more guys as well to put around him. But yeah, I don't know. I can't even. If I sit here and think real hard, I don't even know if I can name half of their starting lineup. Seriously. So like you said, they're a ways away all the way around, not only in the rotation, but hitting as well.
Yeah, they really are, and it just kind of it's amazing to me that the amount of money that they've spent, David, is incredible, and you cannot blame them for they're going after it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that they're not trying, but when Nathaniel Lowe and Adolis Garcia and Jonathan Heim and Josh Young and Brad Miller and Leotis Tavares and Josh Smith are in your lineup, you got Marcus Simeon and Seager in there. But after those two, it's Lowe, it's Garcia, great players, no doubt. And then you got Jonathan Heim, Josh Young, who's going to be a good player, I think, Brad Miller.
The Astros are in your division. Let me just throw that out there. So you got to be kind of honest about what your expectations are. I mean, like I said, kudos to them for kind of going for it, but just match up their lineup and their rotation man for man with the Astros, and you realize how far away they are.
And so to keep going here with the signings that have happened, and we'll stick with the Rangers here. Martin Perez re-ups with them, so he's in the rotation. Like we talked about John Gray, they got last year. They move in Andrew Heaney. They just got him added into there.
Can I just say I don't get Andrew Heaney?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
You can say it. I don't either.
I know he's got a good pitch that is dominating when it's on, but you have to have more than one or even two to be a legitimate starter. He's never been one ever. I don't get it at all. I hated him when he was with the Yankees.
Yeah. I don't understand him at all. I completely agree with that statement. He's your 4-starter, and Jake Odorizzi's your 5-starter, who they just signed as well. So, David, that is not a playoff team. It's not. It's not even close.
It's hard to figure out. It is definitely hard to figure out.
With all that money, and they're where they're at, and you hope some of these prospects like Young and Garcia can continue what he's doing here. Jonah Heim, these guys that are really young, can figure it out for them really fast. Leotis Tavares. They're banking on some young guys here, and we'll see how it works out for Texas. But definitely a strange situation. So the Mets immediately countered DeGrom with Justin Verlander, 2 years, $86 million, and a vesting option for $35 in 2025. What are your thoughts on Verlander getting paid?
That's an upgrade, man. I mean, the Mets are in it to win it, and so that's an upgrade from DeGrom. I know, some people may disagree, but like I told you in that text. So now, as long as there's no major injuries, but if you look at their histories, you're probably going to get 30 starts out of Verlander, where you were getting 15 out of DeGrom. That's a big, big upgrade. So your number 6 starter is not starting half of those games now. Verlander is. So I'm gonna have to think that's going to mean 8 wins. Better than you were last year, probably 7 wins, somewhere in there. So I know it's a lot of money, but it's short term. I'm high-fiving the Mets on that one. Great move.
Yeah, I agree. Trey Turner to the Phillies. He gets a huge monster 11-year, $300 million deal. I cried because I really wanted him to be a Chicago Cub for 11 years. This is the guy I wanted more than anybody this offseason. So I'm having a hard time trying to figure out of the last three remaining which one fits better for the Cubs. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But the rich get richer. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Reese Cossins, JT Real Muto, Alec Baum, Bryson Stott is going to be a stud. I think we saw that. He's going to slide over second base now. The Phillies got way better. They added Taiwan Walker too. That's the other move they made this week, and he will slide into that rotation as well. With Ranger Suarez, Zach Wheeler, and Aaron Nola. So, your thoughts on the Phillies, man?
They're loaded, but I'm telling you, they got to deal with the Braves. That's the problem. Braves are just as good. They're younger. So that was a great move getting Trey Turner. It surely made them better. I like Taiwan Walker as well. Great moves, but if you're asking me today, I'm still going to probably put the Braves ahead of them.
And the Braves are not going anywhere for any time soon with the contracts that they have signed with all their players. So, definitely really an absolutely awesome signing for the Phillies. They came out of nowhere. I started hearing the Phillies were really interested in him, and I started getting worried because Dombrowski don't mess around, and pulled off yet another one of his tricks and got one of the best shortstops, if not the best shortstop in the game, to come to play with the Phillies, and the rich get richer. So, David, I texted you the other day. The Yankees had signed Tommy Kahnle from the Dodgers. Your thoughts on that?
Love it. And they got him for cheap. $5 million. I think, I don't know this. I haven't read this anywhere, but I wonder if he kind of gave the Yankees a hometown discount, so to speak. I think he loved the Yankees and the Yankees loved him when they had him. This is a great move. When you're getting him cheaper, we reeled off the reliever contracts, and he's cheaper than about anybody else. So I think this is a big win.
I really like him a lot. And when I saw that happen, I was thinking that you were gonna really enjoy that signing for sure. Guardians get Josh Bell, 2 years, $33 million. What do you think of Josh Bell, man? What do you think?
I don't know. He's erratic, but that deal, smart. $16 million. You might have a 35 homer guy there for $16 million. And it's not a long-term contract. He's not going to hurt you forever. This is a great move, in my opinion. That is exactly what the Indians needed to do.
Yeah, that was a big one, man. Getting an upgrade there for that playoff team as well, for sure. So Aaron Judge, David, your thoughts on the Yankees signing Judge to a 9-year, $360 million contract?
Let me just ask you, what's your thoughts? And I'll get into my thoughts are going to be a lot longer. So from the outside looking in, so this is your generational homegrown talent. You're in big competition with two other teams we found out who actually offered more money. What do you think?
Here's my thoughts, and I kind of tie into what the Cubs have done here now. So you've got a right fielder right now making $40 million a year, correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have a center fielder making $40 million, and I'll tell you why. Because the Cubs are paying Jason Hayward $22 million this year, and they're paying Cody Bellinger $17 million this year. $40 million. I'd rather have Aaron Judge.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the conclusion the Yankees came to. There was going to be fan upheaval if Aaron Judge didn't end up with the Yankees. And to be honest, I think Cashman was ready to walk. So the what's been said is Hal Steinbrenner basically called him and said, "Look, do you want to be a Yankee or not?" He said, "Yes." What's it going to take? The 9th year. We're done. We're in. And that was game over. I think he wanted to be a Yankee. That supposedly the Padres offered him $400 million.
Yeah.
So, but as a baseball move, is this smart? No. This is going to be a contract that they'll regret the last 3 or 4 years of it. I think Aaron Judge is going to be fine the next few years, and the decline's going to start. I love Aaron Judge. He's one of my favorite players ever. This past season was amazing. And we know that season's not a fluke either, because he got another one just like it a few years back, the year he hit 52 homers. So for the next few years, this is going to be fine. The end of this is going to suck, a la Albert Pujols, and you can name 100 other guys. But this is generational talent. They say he's going to be the next captain. I understand it. Probably not a smart move.
So what's the next move for the Yankees then? That's my big question. Like, where do they go from here?
Yeah, so they have the exact same team back that they had
Same
last
team.
year.
Yep.
It's the same team. So the rumor is they want another starter to replace Taillon. So Rodon is the guy that they want. If they got Rodon, they probably will have the best rotation in the league. I don't think Montas is going to suck like he did those last few weeks with the Yankees. So you got Montas, Severino, Garrett Cole, and Nestor Cortez. You add Rodon to that, you're looking pretty good. The bullpen is tight. So they need a starter and they need a left fielder. And if they can get those two things, I do anticipate them trying to dump Josh Donaldson and probably play LeMahieu at third. So we'll see if that can come to fruition. I think they'll try to dump Hicks, which will be a smart move too. But I think they got to go for it now. You're in this deep. You may as well go for it.
Yep, and that's the only question I really have on the Yankees is what they're going to do next, because like you said, they're just the same team as they were, only they've spent a whole lot more money now. So now you got to go on and add to the team that fell just a little bit short last year. And we'll wrap up, David, here with the Cubs moves here. So it's been a up and down day for the Cubs. First of all, you see Cody Bellinger come in, which the 1-year deal is kind of what gets me on the Bellinger move. It feels like you talked about this before the show. It feels a whole like Jock Peterson 2.0, where you bring him in, he starts and plays for you, and if you're out of it by the All-Star break, by the trade deadline, you trade him, you get a draft pick for him. MVP in 2019, no doubt he can hit it. He has a terrible swing, David. So we know that he's been off with his batting average. He swings like he's golfing, basically. He's got such a high uppercut swing. It's hit or miss, and it's been mainly missed for the last couple of years. So unless he changes that swing, he's never going to hit for average, and he's going to be really bad as far as getting on base as well. So defensively, he's awesome. I'm a big fan of Cody Bellinger. I always have been. I think it's an interesting move. I don't say it's a good move, great move. I don't know yet. I'm wrapping my head around this.
I hate to say it, DJ, but I like the move.
You do like it?
Yeah, I was kind of pulling for Bellinger in New York. I thought, you know what? This guy has got talent. He's a lefty hitter. 1 year, yeah, you're throwing a big pile of money at him, but in a year it's gone. If everything goes great, either he takes you into the playoffs or you're trading him and getting something good. So I don't really think the Cubs lose in this scenario. I actually think it was a good deal.
And so the big thing here, David, is Pete Crow Armstrong is our top prospect. He's a stud. He's the guy we got for Javi Baez in the Mets trade. He's minor league player of the year at some certain points, player of the week, I should say. And so this is the number one prospect for the Cubs. The future of center field is Pete Crow Armstrong. He won't be ready for a year or two, still to be determined when he's actually going to be called up. So I think it's a stopgap to Pete Crow Armstrong. And Brendan Davis is also one of our top prospects, and he's also an outfielder. And you got Ian Happ out there, and Seiya Suzuki is not going anywhere with the contract they gave him. So you got to kind of figure that those are factors as well with the 1-year deal. That's what I'm kind of getting at, I think, is with the prospects. You're just kind of figuring out some way to stop this. Kevin Kiermaier was the other guy we were rumored to possibly be getting. Stud defensively, okay hitter. So it was between those two, and they ended up getting Bellinger, which I'm not hating on. I love Bellinger. I love Kiermaier as well. I thought that would have been great as well. But the 1-year thing just kind of makes it. I don't know, man. It's hard. I wish he would. I don't know. 3 years would have been nice. I really believe
DJ,
3 years of Cody Bellinger.
Do you really believe in your heart that the Cubs are going to contend this year?
Well, talk to me in a week. It's rumored that we're going after Xander and Dansby. We're trying to get both of them now. So
both of them.
Both of them.
What are you reading?
I'm reading good stuff, man.
It sounds like you're reading your own blog that you wrote. My wish list for the Cubs in 2023. They're not signing both of those guys. Maybe one of them. I'm gonna give you maybe one of them. I think I told you. I think they're going to end up with Dansby. Just something for some reason makes me feel like they're going to end up with Dansby. Maybe I'm wrong, but if they get a shortstop, they'll be competitive. But man, they're at least a year or two away, right? I mean, just in all honesty,
Yep.
they'll be competitive. But
Matt Mervis, first base, he's our big prospect as well. We got some pretty good prospects that are coming up. Matt Mervis led the minor leagues in home runs last year. He's going to be the first baseman of the future. So we've got some prospects that we're definitely hanging our hats on here coming up here. I know you've heard this before with the prospect thing, but there's definitely some studs in the wings here. And today we did lose Wilson Contreras. So you lost Wilson Contreras to the Cardinals of all teams, which makes me
Cardinals,
absolutely nuts.
ooh,
Makes me nuts. I cannot believe that. That's going to be really hard to see him in a Cardinal uniform for the next 5 years. I knew this was going to happen. I really did. Talking to a buddy at work, and he's a Cardinals fan, and I told him, I'm like, you're getting Wilson Contreras to replace Yachty. It's going to happen. He's not going to re-sign with the Cubs. I 100% believed he was going to the Cardinals. So we lost him. We gained Cody Bellinger, Jameson Taillon. Are we any better, waking up today than we were yesterday? No, but we did get Jameson Taillon, who's a good pitcher. I was telling you before, I like our rotation with Stroman, Taillon. Those guys are good. Wisniewski is going to be a good starter for us as well. So, the well isn't dry. Keegan Thompson can step in there. Justin Steele was nasty. Those two were really good last year. And then whatever Kyle Hendricks can give you. It's not the worst thing in the world as far as the rotation goes. There was a lot of guys who were young that pitched well for us last year. Nico Horner's our second baseman. He was outstanding last year, maybe our best player overall. You had Ian Happ, who won a Gold Glove and was an All-Star. So it's not completely dry. Yan Gomes is our catcher right now, which Yan Gomes is a winner, but he's not, your catcher of your future. He's a little older. So we've got some holes still. It'd be interesting to see what they do in the next week. So hopefully next Wednesday when we're talking, I'm feeling a whole lot better about where the Chicago Cubs are. And it'll be interesting to see if the Yankees make another move by the time we talk again next Wednesday, David.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I think there's a couple more to be made, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Man, the Cardinals. I mean, it just seems like they're kind of separating, from everybody else as well. I think they're one good pitcher away from being like really, really, really good.
That's
to
tough to hear.
I know you hate to admit that.
Well, David, man, this has been a lot of fun tonight. I appreciate you coming on and talking some baseball here. And next week we have a former teammate and Donnie Cruz, our teammate at Tennessee Temple University, will be joining the show next Wednesday night. So we are looking forward to that. One of our great friends there, great teammate with us. Going to talk about his career, talk about the moves that were made leading up to this week, and it'll be a lot of fun. So subscribe to our YouTube page, Dirt Bags and Pinstripes. David, as always, buddy, it's been a pleasure. Everybody have a great night.
See you guys.